Hey there, happy Monday everybody, hope you all are doing well. So today I decided to make a cola ice cream. And when I say I'm making a cola ice cream, I mean that I am going to take all of the ingredients in a cola syrup and make our own, and then we'll use that to infuse our milk mixture. So that was the juice and zest of 1 lemon, 1 lime, and 1 orange, and 2/3 of a cup of sugar. We're going to go ahead and bring that up to a boil. So I've thought about just adding a can of cola, a can of Coke, Pepsi, RC, whatever your choice is. I thought about just adding that to the ice cream base, but and I've done this before, I really wanted to try taking an old-fashioned cola recipe and seeing if that would work. That way we could sort of infuse the flavors instead of just adding more in the way of liquid. So while that's coming up to temperature, we have a teaspoon of coriander seeds, probably a half teaspoon of ground nutmeg, and a half teaspoon of anise seed, and 3 cinnamon sticks. And this time we want a very healthy squeeze of vanilla bean paste. That's probably a teaspoon. Actually, I kind of want to go more like 2 teaspoons. And if you're making your own cola, this apparently is the secret ingredient. It is a browning sauce. It's actually used more for savory things, and I've actually never used it except to make cola. And what it brings to the party is some of the, it definitely brings the color, but it also brings some of those caramel notes, because the first ingredient is caramel color. And now that that's boiling, we're just going to bring it down to a simmer, and I'm going to let this simmer away for probably 20 minutes. I kind of want to drive off some of the liquid that we introduced with the citrus juice, and that will also help to bring down some of the acidity a little bit so that when we add the milk in, it doesn't just immediately curdle. Alright, our cola syrup has been steeping for half an hour or so. And I can tell that it's starting to get a little bit thick. You can tell that it's reduced some. So we will go ahead and add our 1 cup of whole milk and 1 cup of heavy cream. And we'll go ahead and bring that up to a simmer. There are the first few wisps of steam, so 4 egg yolks that we will go ahead and temper. I can tell that it did curdle the milk some. Hopefully it's not too much. I think a lot of that, as I've said before, sort of works itself out in the churning process. And that's part of the reason we include these egg yolks, because they do act as a bit of a stabilizer. Okay, heat off, slide it off the burner, and we will go ahead and get this strained. I'm pretty sure I'll be making a mess because of all these spices and the cinnamon stick. Hopefully not. But if you've watched any of my videos, you know that I do tend to make a mess. And the last little bit here. So there we go, we've got all these spices out, and we'll go ahead and bring this on up to 3 cups, or however much that is. We'll go ahead and give this a stir and a taste. Okay, well, that tastes cola-esque. It's a little citrus forward, but we'll see how it churns up. Okay, it's the next morning, and I went to get the cola ice cream out, and it definitely curdled some. Quite a bit, actually, so I'm gonna give this a nice stir and shake before we start churning. Okay, after a good stir, it's definitely more liquidy, but I no longer have high hopes for this ice cream. But you never know. Sometimes things work out. So we'll go ahead and churn this and see how it looks. Alrighty, we'll get this scooped into our containers. That might have been a little bit too big of a spoonful to get started, but that's okay. You know, it churned up a little smoother than I expected. I thought it was going to be strange with the curdling. And there is an air gap here at the bottom. Usually it'll fill the bottom pretty smoothly, but we'll see how it tastes. And cola into the freezer. All right, let's give this cola abomination a try. You know what? I was a little concerned when I first pulled this out of the freezer. that it seemed very firm, but now that I'm giving it a nice squeeze, and that scoop is my fault. It actually scooped really well. The execution was poor on my part, but bad scoop nonetheless. We're going to go ahead and give this a try. And actually, now that I'm digging at it with my spoon, it's seems a little on the icy side more so than creamy. Yeah, I mean, even though it scooped well, it's kind of clumpy. Now, it melted pretty well on the bottom here. And texture-wise, you know, once it hits your mouth, you don't really notice. It melts pretty quickly. And it's, flavor-wise, it's reminiscent of cola, right? It's very, very citrus forward. So I probably used too much, even though I was essentially replicating my cola syrup recipe. It's a little too citrus forward. I'm not sure if maybe the spices didn't have enough time to steep. I can tell that they're there. The cinnamon is the one that I pick up the most. Once you get past the brightness of all the citrus, I get the cinnamon. I'm pretty sure I get the anise. I don't know that I pick up the coriander. And maybe that's one of those things that you don't really notice the flavor of. And I will note that this was never going to taste like a modern cola. It would not taste like a Coke float or anything. It's not going to taste like Coke, Pepsi, RC, any of the commercially available colas, the widely commercially available ones. This is much more an old-fashioned cola recipe. This is, you know, more early 1900s. But it's not bad. I do like the citrus forwardness that I'm experiencing here. I just wish that maybe it was pulled back just a little bit so that some of those spices could shine through a little bit more. It was worth a try. I don't think I'll make it again. So if I did make this again, I would want to use a syrup that I've already made and tested to make sure that all of those flavors are there and that the citrus levels are balanced with the spices. Would I make it again steeping everything in the milk? No, I don't think so. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and we'll see you again next time. Bye!